Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Spark of Genius Flesh and Blood production. And today we are joined by for this episode, my co-creator, co-commentator, co-caster, co-compatriot, Nghia, on the top level here. Say hi to the channel.
Hi, I'm not Rob.
Hi, he's not Rob. Rob's a little under the weather, but we wanted to get this video out before Nats starts because this is going to be the class constructed tier list. The last tier list Nghia was on was apparently the world's 2023 tier list, I think. I think it was the 2023 Worlds tier list, which is pretty funny. But we've got some new heroes. Nghia is going to the Calling at Minnesota in the US. So if you see him there, I guess you could say hi. You don't have to though. It's up to you. Sometimes he's more approachable than he looks. Sometimes.
It's true.
So this meta is shaped. So this is like brand new Mistveil meta. Mistveil came out 2 weeks ago? Not even 2 weeks ago, technically.
Yeah, I think so.
And these heroes are like, it's like the opposite of Bright Lights. I feel like it's the like heavy hitters. Yeah, KO kind of came out of nowhere, and then the other heroes kind of lagged behind a little bit, but they were like still being played. But like this set, everyone seems to be all on all three of these heroes from the get go. Like I feel like Zen. Nobody knew anything about Zen, so they thought it was the weakest. Everyone thought New was the strongest, and then Enigma, and then now everyone's never mind, Zen's the strongest. Everyone seems to be like changing their mind every like week or two. And so this is going to be for like kind of the whole Nats season. I wouldn't extend this to PT because there's going to be one ban cycle, I think, before PT, but after Nats, if I recall.
Yeah, there's also the Bolton deck in between now and then.
There is also the Bolton deck, which might do some things. I'm not really sure though. So we're gonna go alphabetical here, even though you know what? Actually, we're gonna start with S and then build it from there. And the reason we're gonna do this is because the meta is warped by the strongest heroes. Because either you play the strongest hero, play someone who's good against the strongest hero, or play whatever you want. But the play whatever you want is like most of the heroes at this point, right? So we're gonna pick 3 S tier heroes. And I'm gonna start. I'm gonna go with the easy one. I'm gonna go with Zen. I'm gonna put Zen right up in S tier. I don't know if I have to really explain too much about why. I think everyone can kind of agree on that after seeing like 50 plus damage turns. I think I saw Balhar in Singapore 53 damage. I think they counted. Was like a triple bonds into like a whole bunch of shit, and you like the guy had like 7 cards at one point. It was kind of ridiculous. And I think he is just the no agency deck. Like you either win or lose based on more or less good or bad variance in one particular way, unless they can stop you or disrupt you somehow. The game kind of seems to come down by chance. He has probably the best offensive output in Fab right now. I can't really think of a deck that could push out a 50 plus damage turn other than Zen at the moment. And it wasn't even that hard because you like that's the problem. Like it was turned like 3 or 4 or something like that. Like it wasn't even that late in the game. Do you have anything to add on Zen? I know you've been playing some Zen lately.
I was really wrong about
Yeah.
As I feel like a lot of people were really just like pushed him off to the side, didn't think he was very good. And then yeah, people started coming out with lists and he just does vile things and he does it really easily. Sometimes you just give them the boots in the hat and you just put 50 damage on the table.
You just get 2 cards. That seems cool. Like you literally trade 3 armor and you get a chi and a tiger. So you get to replace your 2 cards. One of them happens to be a tutor. Like it's like it seems doesn't. I mean, I'm saying this out loud and I'm like that's kind of stupid. Yeah. And I think the big one was Xing. I think his list, the one that had bonds in it. I think he was the first one that was like public-ish.
It was Pudding's list, right?
Sorry, it was Pudding list, not Xing's list. I gave way too much credit to Xing. There we go. Let's Pudding's list. I don't want to make them angry at each other here. It's Pudding list. Was kind of the first one that more people saw with bonds in it. I think that was the breaking point because I don't think anyone was really thinking about bonds in Zen. They were kind of thinking about Tiger generation, like Roar the Tiger, stuff like that. I think that was a trap. And I think everyone knows that now. So at this point, it's really just streamlined. I think everyone's just on like the bonds package. They're on, Gust Waves bonds, some Tiger gen, but really just like, the regular obscene combo stuff. I don't really think there's too much variation in Zen at the moment. but I will say he's the preeminent aggro deck in the meta. So it's gonna be the first S tier. Do you have a what's your second S tier hero? What do you think?
Um, I think Azaelia is really good right now.
All right,
I'd put Azaelia in S tier.
why is Azaelia S tier?
Uh, I mean, in a format where everyone's just laying the cards on the table, sometimes you red in the ledge of them, sometimes you four buff them, hit them for 16 with a bunch of on hits.
It seems
She's pretty easy to pilot, I think, in
yeah,
general.
it's true. Um, I would agree with this. I mean, not only are her offensive numbers quite high, but they usually always come with disruption. Like almost always, depending on what arrows I guess you run. If you run like Searing Shot, yeah, maybe they don't always have disruption kind of thing. But like she's such a good toolbox deck for disruption that in this format you've now sped up the format with Zen, and you've kind of added some utility, kind of more like mid-range utility with New, and then you've got Enigma, which is kind of all by herself at the moment. Um, so I think like that disruptive ability, but still being able to go aggro, really does help you in the meta. Um, and she did get one new card, Long Draw. Long Draw, I think, was the arms that she got.
Yep.
What do you think about that card? Her new arm piece.
I can see the merit to playing it and like the spots that you want to play it, but Bullseye Bracers is just a real good card
Yeah, you really do like
for
Bullseye. It's I guess the new arm piece is really good until I Warmongers. Like that's really the one big piece, right? Because you're able to
yeah.
still buff. If you have like Bolden Shaw in Arsenal and don't have a Rain Razor, you can still keep going, that kind of stuff. Or you can just like buff one big arrow for like 9, like buff any one for 5 for 9, which is pretty good.
Yep.
So I do agree, but then Bullseye is also really, really good. So that is definitely a card that I've seen some Azaleas put into the list just as like anti-Mong because like Zen can run that and it hurts when he can
For
also run that
free.
stupid card. Yeah, that seems kind of dumb that he also gets to run Warmongers. But yeah, I definitely do agree with Azalea's kind of spot in S tier. Um, the last S tier that I'm gonna add is gonna be, and I'm kind of like not 100% sold on it, but like I do know this hero is good. It's gonna be Enigma. Um, Obviously, I think people are very aware on like the power of setting up board states. Like Prism has been, like OG Prism has been around. Like having a lot of auras on the board is very powerful. But I think we did see what was it, Noah Clark take down, was it back-to-back events on Enigma, I think, right? Um, but one
Well,
of
the
them was
first one was
limited,
limited.
yeah. But I think he played Enigma in all the limited
I mean,
drafts
he
or
had a
something like that.
constructed deck for limited anyway, so.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he kind of, it wasn't just him, but like that was definitely the one of those streamed events where you kind of got to see what just like the first thing Enigma could do without that much tuning, right? Because this was like opening release. Um Hero's very strong, like Ward's a very powerful ability, and I think the ability to just set up so much that allows you to capitalize not only on your opponents, like not misplaced necessarily, but just like if they have a dead turn, you can just like instant speed a whole shit ton of auras. And you can take tempo really fast with Enigma, I feel, like which you can't really do with Prism, with new Prism. And you get to start with 40 health. I don't know if anyone knows that, but you get 40 health in Enigma, which makes her 8 health better than Prism. So to use the ward in Prism, you go to 32 health, but it's like that one angel is worth about 8, right? 4 on offense, 4 on defense. So that's kind of like if you equalize with an angel. Enigma doesn't have that requirement. Meridian Pathways. That's the
Yep.
boots, I think. Yeah, she gets Meridian Pathways, is really really good. Because that could be like a ward 3. You've got your Traverse, obviously Traverse being really 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 good card, and Enigma can use Chi really really well. Which makes her late game also quite good. She has good survivability and with a good ability. Um, what do you think? S tier? A little bit lower? A tier maybe?
I think, I mean, personally, my opinion is I think she's like high A just because I think, at least for Azalea, at least personally, I think the Azalea matchup is like really favored into Enigma.
Sure.
And Zen can have just like some really really big turns into her. Obviously, he can
Yeah.
stumble, and then she kind of capitalizes on that. But just in general, Shuko helps you. Going wide really helps you.
Yeah,
Um, so I might put her like high A, but S is
that's
also
fair.
like fine.
I, th- I
For me personally, I think Zen being S just makes the most sense, and then the other two are kind of just like more opinionated.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. I think Zen and Azaelia can trade pretty evenly. Putting them up here is probably fine. Their spread is just very, very good along the board. But well, I do agree, like they both have ways to make Enigma have a harder time. Like you just said, Shuko Murkmire is definitely a thing that Azaelia
Yeah.
has, um, which inadvertently makes her slightly better into Prism, even though like a ward wasn't usually the issue, but it is a card that still does work into Prism.
Yeah.
I mean, you still need poppers in that matchup, but still, it's just like an inadvertent effect that helps one of your poor matchups, which is quite nice. But I'm kind of fine with putting her in A. I think she still does um, have some like wonky hands. I think for Nats she might be an A tier, and maybe once she's like figured out, maybe PT she'll be S tier. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm thinking. But I think at the moment she's probably still in like the A tier until like Michael Hamilton wins Nats with some crazy Enigma list. Like, well, because what he did with Icelander, right? He
Yep.
literally took that hero, redefined the deck, and then pretty much like turned her into S tier by not by himself, but like pretty heavy influence, right?
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I think I like this so far. I don't think any other hero in my mind is S tier. So maybe we could just go alphabetical at this point,
Sure.
judging by we've put these kind of heroes in there. Um, Arachne. I'm gonna shove him in D for now. But talk to me a little bit about Arachne because I think you've played way more Arachne than I have.
Um, I mean, in the short time where Dromai was gone and
Yep.
MST wasn't legal,
Yep.
he was feeling pretty good.
He's feeling like C tier.
Yeah, maybe even a B tier. Like
Oh,
Coercive
okay.
Tendency is a really cool card.
Yep.
Just in general, we were still in that like really mid-rangey format that we were stuck in for a little bit of time there,
Yeah.
and I think he did like some pretty cool stuff in that format.
Yeah.
But in general, I think he's not as good as the other two assassins you could choose from.
That's fair. I think, yeah, he suffers from the fact that he still doesn't have a hero ability, and his specialization card is really only coercive. Like his other one doesn't really do anything because, like Regicide doesn't do anything with Dromai. Like Royal Dromai was the target, right? And now it's just kind of like, oh, that card's now even more dead.
Yep.
I don't think you ever beat the other Lucius. Like I don't know how you ever beat Enigma. I think you just like insta gibbed. Prism sounds pretty bad also. Um, I don't think he just play this hero if you really like Arachne. It's gonna be the D tier is gonna be like a labor of love, you know. Speaking of labor of love, I'm gonna put Betsy right next to him. Now, I will say Betsy has had like one or two cool battle hardened appearances. Like one in Singapore was doing okay until they got like boomed by Zen. But like it's still I think there was one in the States also like a fatigue Betsy. Like I think they were on like I don't know, just like a defensive package and they like top forward or something along those lines. Uh but ultimately I think I'm still putting her in D. I think she needs a weapon. Like I don't she needs something. I think Bet Big as a card is fine, but like why would you play her over Bravo and Victor when it's not even a Guardian meta anymore? I don't think it's really a
Yeah.
Guardian meta anymore. Um so at that rate, I don't really think there's a reason to play Betsy. Maybe you disagree. Do you have any thoughts on Betsy?
Um, I mean, she can't be that bad because she has Guardian at the bottom,
It's
but
true. She has like a good base level of cards, but what do you do if once you
yeah.
like face new and then they're hitting you with your blue cards? Like it's stuff like that.
You
You just die.
tell them you don't want to play with them anymore, and
Yeah,
you go home.
it's
Yeah,
true.
I think she's just like you have two better options, and it feels like the Arachne problem. You have two better options.
hmm
You're missing a bunch of pieces for your deck. Like she doesn't have a weapon.
hmm
Her specialization is like okay.
Yeah, she didn't get a new one either. Like Victor got one. Bolton, not Bolton. Sorry.
Olympia.
Olympia. Like Olympia got one, but like Betsy didn't get one. But it doesn't really make sense. It's like these two heroes both I think both needed one, but Betsy just didn't. I guess. Not
Yeah, and
really
Victor
sure
got one, and he
why.
was ahead of the other two.
Yeah, I'm not like of course these cards are made like way before they know what's gonna happen in like meta or stuff like that, right? But still, it feels a little disingenuous at this point. Um, we're on Bolton. I'm gonna shove him in C tier for now. Um, I judge Bolton by asking Ellie how good Bolton is. That's how I guess how good Bolton is. And right now, he seems to always be like almost there. He's always almost there. They give him a new card, he's almost there. They give him another legendary, he's almost there, right? Um, and I think he was pretty good in like Guardian meta, right? Because
Yep.
he has like pretty good matchups across the board in that kind of meta. Not great into the other warriors, if I remember. Like, I don't think he was very good into Dory or Kasai. And like he was very good into KO. So I will say, like, an aggressive Bolton did have game into KO, and he did have like good matchups into Prism too, I think. But I think overall he's just I don't really know what else he's missing. They do have the new Bolton deck coming out with like the new legs and stuff like that. But I don't know how you feel about Bolton. What do you think about Bolton right now? Do you think he deserves like a B tier or something, or do you think you're fine with a C tier?
I like you default to whatever Ellie tells me about the hero.
Yeah, she's not that impressed at the
Um,
moment.
yeah, and last meta, I played it. I brought it to some PQs. It felt really good.
Yeah,
Felt like it had its spot. It did okay into the Warriors.
yeah,
But now it's just like I don't see it. It's just
yeah,
not the same right now. I don't know what he's missing. I don't know what he could have, but that's for LSS to decide in the deck.
yeah. It's funny because he's like he plays like an aggro deck, and but then you have another resource, like you have Soul as another resource you have to think about. So it's like, okay, so now you're playing the more complicated aggro deck. You get some armor to compensate, but you can also brick pretty hard. So I fail to see why, like, if I want to play an aggro deck, why I wouldn't just play Zen or something like that. I also am not really sure. I don't think the Enigma matchup goes up very well either. I think the Azaelia matchup's pretty bad. Um, but even into like some of the other more represented heroes, I think other than KO, which I know he has like a pretty good matchup into, I don't really know what else you're hoping to see, you know? Um,
Yeah.
and that like worries me a little bit if I want to pick up this kind of deck. Still a powerful deck, but I think just not like a super compelling reason to play him into the field right now. Because I think he's just like
Yeah.
it's outclassed. But as you see a Zen, I think you just get you get obliterated. Like it's just you just blink and it's kind of over. You don't have
And they
enough
can also
armor.
just warmongers you. They can
Yeah.
just like hit you and then warmongers you, and you can't combo them back. And it's just like,
It's
does
so
that feel good
dumb.
for you?
It's so dumb that Zen can also use Warmongers. Holy moly. Um, okay, moving on to the second Guardian, Bravo. I don't know what Bravo needs. Like, he has one of those like. So I'm putting him in C for now, but he's got like that Welcome to Wraith age that he can't shake off. Like he's simple in his like goals essentially, and you can play him like in a more fatiguey sense. Like you can go Rampart, Rainbow Staunch, and shit like that. Which I don't know, just seems like you just insta lose to Enigma. Like you lose to Enigma immediately, pretty much. Um,
There's a player in Quebec that plays that deck, right?
yeah, I forgot his
He's
name.
been on stream a bunch. Yeah. I,
I mean, he did
it's bad
beat
I
a
forgot his
Zen.
name.
Yeah,
I
he did.
played against him at the battle.
Yeah, he did beat a Zen. However, I think that Zen was unoptimized. Like it was like a release Zen. I don't think they were on a bunch of the other cards that players are now on. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that's the best representation. But I think Bravo was not really meant to be played in this kind of like played as Oldhim essentially. It was what was happening. Um, just because once you play it like that, his hero ability doesn't exist, right? Like you don't essentially not necessarily need it, but you can't really use it effectively in that strategy, which I really try not to do, and I don't think a hero can do that and be like higher than B tier, honestly. But I
Yeah.
also think the meta is just like Enigma, just very good. He's like good into Azaelia, sure, but I think Zen can like an optimized Zen can still blow him out,
Yep.
because he generally won't have those kinds of defensive tools. And I think that there are other decks that will also kind of like Kano and stuff like that can kind of feast if you want to go slower. Dash, the next hero, will feast on you if you try to go slower because you can't beat OG Dash and like that kind of game plan. So I think you just lose to a lot of other stuff that you wouldn't have lost to before. So Bravo definitely more of a labor of love, and maybe you'll catch some people off guard, be like, "Oh, I'm actually fatigued. Haha, you didn't side for it." It's like, well, you still need to win the game. And the other problem with that is you might not play within time. Like you might go to time
Yeah.
in that build. So I'm not a big fan of that. So I'm gonna keep him in C, right next to Bolton. These guys just always next to each other for some reason. Um, OG Dash. I'm gonna put OG Dash in B, and reason for that is I think she's actually always quite powerful for like the surprise factor first. You could build her in multiple different ways that are all effective. But she won Battle Hard in Singapore, right? So she's just clearly not gone. Their dash has been represented in a Mistveil meta. And the thing is, an aggro dash, if Zen has an off turn and dash goes second as Pounder and just starts running at you, it's actually like a lot of damage, especially with max velocity, right? So it's a very similar kind of aggro v aggro, and she can gain quite a few points into that. And if she's able to have like a good hybrid package and deal with like a lot of the other matchups across the board, I think she could be positioned quite well. Even like kind of a dark horse kind of matchup. What do you think about OG Dash? What are your thoughts on her?
I think I might even put her at like in A because I think
Oh,
B's really
spicy.
middle of the pack, but she's like
Well, she's upper B for now. She's like first in B for now.
yeah, she's if you they've been playing a lot of like T-Bones or on the Rainbow T-Bones Magnetic plan.
It's
She
true.
kind of
It's
just
true for
like
Zen. Yeah,
booms Zen's armor, and it's just like, well, now you can't have that pivot turn,
yeah.
and you can't like race me anymore
You know what?
because Max V is very good.
I'm actually really not opposed to putting Dash in A tier, just because like I really think her Zen matchup's quite good. Which this is an S tier here. I think her Azaelia matchup's just bad in my opinion. Like you try to go aggro into Azaelia, you'll lose, because she just has so many like other than Red Ledger obviously, but like she has such good disruption that it's really hard to get maximum value against her, and it's hard to unless she bricks. It's hard to actually get her off there. I think
Yeah,
her Enigma matchup might actually be like pretty close to 50-50, if not slightly favored, if you're able to optimize it quite well. Um, and I think you have like pretty good matchups into the brutes is kind of hard. I think you can have pretty good matchups if you go aggro, take their armor, that kind of thing. I think it could be like a similar idea that Sash, like Savage Sash, is what a lot of the brutes use right now to go extra aggro to actually get an advantage. And if you're able to like take that, or if you're able to just go second and be aggressive on like off your oh my god, what I forgot the pounder, sorry, the pounder package. You're able to like put down a lot of damage, and I think that's actually quite good. I don't think that's changed really, but I would agree with you that Dash probably hovering more around A tier than B tier when I look closer at it.
yeah.
We're in Dash IO now. What do you feel about Dash IO? She's gonna be in B for now.
Uh, I still don't think this hero is solved or she has all the cards she needs. She's just like
Yeah,
this pile of cards where you always present the pile because you don't want to get fatigued, and that just feels unoptimized. So it's just like once somebody figures her out, her busted turns are just not playing. You're not playing Fab anymore. Like once
yeah,
she's figured out, I think she'll be like insane, and then she'll be gone. But while she's not there, I think she's just like
yeah,
not quite there.
yeah. I think she's kind of like. Well, the idea is you play her over original Dash because she has more burst potential and she goes faster, right? Like that's supposed to be the idea, and because of that, you lose blocking ability and you're a lot more susceptible to disruption. However, I feel like if Zen goes faster than you and Azaelia has disruption, so I'm looking at like the more like top level of the meta and what you likely will see more of.
Yeah,
I'm not too sure. And then against like Kano and stuff like that. I think New is also going to be a problem because she has a lot of on hits and stuff like that, and a lot of
it's
like
true.
discard effects. I feel like New will actually be very good in Dash IO, because Dash IO needs such sculpted hands to maximize her potential compared to something like a KO. Whereas if you take a card or two from KO, he could likely still come back for quite a bit of damage. I don't think that's the case for Dash IO. So
Yeah,
I think you're right. Probably like another specialization card or something like that. But I think she probably sits in B tier. I think her output is still quite good. I'd be a bit more comfortable compared to Bolton and Bravo, where like I don't really know what I want to see. At least Dash, I can probably like burst my way through quite a few matchups, like maybe like Kasai, possibly into like the mirror, or possibly if I can get through some of the brutes, the slower ones, if they have off turns, I can really kind of keep going if they don't want to block, that kind of thing. And I think her damage is definitely very respectable. But when you see Zen in S tier, it's hard to like. We have burst class cannon versus burst, but I also have armor and get more cards. You know, so
Nope.
that's good for Dash.io. Dorinthia. Oh man, Dorinthia is in a funny spot, huh? Because this hero was super high in the meta for, I guess, for axes. To be fair, not necessarily for Dawnblade. What do you still think Dorinthia is like a solid choice? What do you think about Dorinthia?
I
I'm
feel
shoving
like
her
she's
in
just
B
like
for now.
I feel like she's just fallen off. It's just like the decks that are good now is not where we were last format.
Yeah,
When you play that really good mid range game and you have the insane numbers that Axis has, it felt
yeah,
great.
yeah.
But now we're sitting here in a format where you get 50'd, or you have to deal with auras, so like the implied value is different, or you're playing against Azaelia where you just get dominated and you can't really convert your hand anymore, so your numbers aren't good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you're playing Dawnblade is just like not quite there either, I think.
No, I think if you get stuffed, you just lose. I think Dawnblade is a lot more
Yeah.
susceptible to just getting outplayed, essentially, right? Like you can ask the question, but they'll more likely to have an answer. But the problem
Yep.
with axes is that was very good in KO meta, because KO was a pretty heavily mid range deck before Sash. Even after Sash, probably could still argue he's more of a mid range deck, but or and into like Kasai, just like a slower field in general. But your field is faster now, and I think that your in particular, I don't know how you really beat Enigma. That's my only issue. Like Dory already has like probably a fairly poor matchup with Illusion. Like she doesn't run a lot of poppers. She doesn't really get nearly as much value as the Illusionist can get. But now you have an Illusionist that also has Ward, so you can't even get on hits. It's probably impossible to get counters. Also, like I feel like that matchup's very very bad. I'm expected to be quite a few Enigmas. I think
Oh yeah.
also your Victor matchup is still pretty bad. Um, I think there still will be Victors. I think people will realize Victor is not nearly as bad as people think he is in the meta. Um, and so I'm expecting to see some Victors, and Victor is still very, very good into Dorinthia. Um, and then she has like some. I don't think I really want to see like Kano as Dory. That's still probably a pretty bad matchup, but nothing's changed there. I don't really think your Dash matchup, your OG Dash matchup, is that good either. So overall, I think she's probably got like high 40s overall win rate across the board, but that probably puts her around B next to Dash.io is my guess.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that.
I think Axes and Dawn. Like I'd probably prefer Axes slightly more, but like I guess you're hoping to not see Zen. Like I don't like you go Dawnblade or Axes. I don't think you're that amazing into Zen regardless. But it's possible that Dawnblade just puts a little bit more pressure on him because you can get counters and keep a card back, and if he bricks, maybe you get there. But super contextual. Um, Now we're on Fi. I don't know if you remember this hero. He's from Uprising. Um, and he makes me reminiscent of Uprising Limited days when I play Misfail Limited, and then I wish Zen was Fi, but Zen is not Fi. So we're gonna put Fi in C at the moment. What do you think about Fi? Just any thoughts in his meta?
uh, Zen just does him better.
Yeah,
Like I don't think he's I don't think he would be bad in this format, given how the format like is anticipated to look. Like he would probably be a good deck
yeah,
into a format that looks like this. But imagine if you could do what Fi does, but add 7 armor and 15
yeah,
damage here,
yep,
and
yeah. I think he's I think you would need to be like Stubby's Fi to like want to compete with Zen at the moment, and
but Zen would have Stubby.
that's the other problem, right? But maybe you run Shuko for like the illusionist or something, or for like Enigma.
No, you want to turn that
Maybe
50 into like a 56, 57?
it's true. I think there really isn't a ton of reasons to play Fi because he is kind of the third class. It's the same with Bravo and Bolton. Like all these C tier heroes are literally just like there's better options. Um, I don't think Fi is I'm not putting him next to Arachne and Betsy
No.
because he is a functional deck that does quite a bit of damage when you're not looking, when you're not expecting. He still has powerful cards. However, why would you not just play Zen at this point, right?
Yep.
That's really all I'm going to say about Fi. Kano. I think Kano is A tier.
I would agree with you.
I think he's very powerful. I think in the hands of a lot, and this is for Nats, right? People going to Nats, the people playing Kano are generally pretty good at Kano. Um, maybe it's a general assumption. Maybe good is relative, but I think the people who are bringing Kano are quite practiced into Kano, and I think they're very aware that like there'll be Zen, there'll be Enigma, there'll be Azaelia. Like this is not really a lot of these aren't a secret that they're going to be represented as powerful decks. So having plans for all these decks is not, not a wild assumption here. What do you think about Kano? I know you've seen a little bit of Kano here. I know you got Victor kind of just bouncing between Kano and everything else.
Kano's like the it's so over, we're so back hero, and like people are like, oh, it's doomed, I can't beat Enigma. Now they're like, oh, I can beat Enigma, and it's like that matchup's like 80% for me. So it's just like I think, like you said, the people that devote themselves to Kano, they're gonna show up and they're gonna like I wouldn't be surprised to see a Kano in the top 8.
I wouldn't be surprised either. I think he still has some like harder matchups. I think dash, like an aggressive dash, is still hard to deal with. Especially if you've devoted your Kano deck to a more pitch stacky kind of style. There might be certain aggressive cards you're not able to fit. I still think he struggles into Prism. I personally haven't seen, like, it depends on the Enigma, but like on paper it seems like a pretty bad matchup. But obviously Kano, if you're bringing Kano, you'll obviously have a plan for Enigma. So I wouldn't believe any of the public data you see about that matchup. But that's all I have to say about that. But I think overall he's still powerful, still good into Guardian. I think like the brutes like Levia and Kayo are still pretty good. Like they're not insurmountably good into Kano, but I think they can do, like Sash is a disgusting card. I think people
Yep.
keep forgetting. We'll come to that in a minute, but like Sash isn't going away. Like this card's still stupid. Like it's like 3/4 chain on like turns, and Roughshod being like a 0 for 5 off Sash. It's just like, oh cool.
Yep.
And I think like these brute decks are gonna come out pretty powerful. Um, and because you get such easy AB and Spell Void into Kano, I think people are super aware that Kano has not gone away. Whereas at other events, they're like, oh yeah, no, like Enigma or Prism is gonna force Kano out of the meta. I was like, no, I don't think so. Not for this series of Nats, is my guess. Still powerful though. Still put him in A. Kasai, remember this hero? Remember when the Marvel was like 350, 400, $500?
Yeah, I do.
I remember. I'm also gonna put her in C. Um, Kasai is a hero, but Kasai is really Valiant Dynamo, right? Um, she had some of the best kind of mid-range value style gameplay in Fab last meta and heavy hitters meta, right? And that's why she did quite well. I mean, Dilks obviously won on a very very clean Kasai deck, and that's kind of what she excelled at, like the KO heavy hitters meta. Whereas Warrior, just like you do very very good into Guardian stuff like that. Kasai not known to be very good into very good aggressive decks. Um, you tend to win more games where you can extract a lot of value off Dynamo and a lot of value off like your copper gold generation. And you can like blood in her hands, like block with 3 cards, blood in her hands. Sorry, block with 2 cards, blood in her hands, pitch, and then kind of get insane value from your coppers and stuff like that. But you still don't have any on hits. Like your on hits are all value oriented, whereas they're not disruptive. And I feel like in this particular meta, I don't know how you're gonna beat any of like the SA tier. I mean, I know Dilks beat Kano in the finals, but like I don't think that's the norm. I will say. So it's really a matter of like Sai's still strong deck, but I don't really know if this is her meta. What do you think about Kasai? I know you played some Kasai before.
I think Kasai just gets better the more turns there are in the game, and we're in a meta where there's less turns in the game than before, so she just
Yep.
gets significantly worse. If we go back to a slower meta, after this one, then she'll probably go straight back up to AS and somewhere around there. But the less turn she gets to Dynamo and get that value on you, the worse it is for her. So yeah.
Yep. No, I tend to agree. Specifically, like Zen is obviously can turn the game pretty quickly, uh, fast, but can turn the game very aggressively on a quick timer. The other issue is I'm not sure how you beat Enigma as Kasai. Like I think that's gonna be like the key with a lot of the warrior decks, probably all of them, other than like I guess Chorus of Iron Song, maybe on like a Dawnblade or something. Very specific scenario, but it's kind of like Enigma seems like just like every other illusionist, just pushing out random decks to say, "Can you deal with my shit?" This seems to be no different. I'm not totally sure how you deal with that matchup. I also don't think you're particularly good into like some of the mechs. I think like OG Dash pretty good into Kasai. You have some pretty good strategies. Dash IO can set up quite well. Like Kasai gives these decks space, and you're able to set up and like burst through. And if you're doing things like setting up and you don't get like the block off Dynamo, you just lose more value than you're gaining. And your hands could, some of them just do nothing, right? If you run a bunch of D reacts and stuff like that too, even like 6 D reacts, your hand could just be like a, swing for 6 pass essentially, right? Not great in this kind of meta. So that's Kasai. Oh man, Katsu. Remember this hero? You remember what Katsu does?
Uh,
Are you
you get to
tasting the
tutor his
wind?
deck, right? But like it has like a condition or something like that.
I hear you have to like do more things and you don't get to just like search a thing for free, which is kind of crazy. Um, I'm tempted to shove him in B. Do you think there's merit in shoving him in A? You think he's still A? Like I think he was A,
Uh,
but is he A now?
I don't think he's A anymore. Honestly, it's just like you have to hit. You have to do jump through all these hoops just to be able to do what Zen can do, but like infinitely better than you.
Yeah, because like, what do you get over Zen? You get Lord of Winds, and what is there another cast specialization I'm missing? I literally can't think of any. I can think of Lord of Wind, but that's about it.
No,
I don't think
I do
so,
not
right?
believe so.
Okay, so not a super compelling reason to play this heroes over the other ninja just for Lord of Wind. Um, and well, I do think his overall power level is still like you still have bonds combo just like Zen does. There's really just not a ton of reasons to play him over Zen unless you just really like Katsu specifically, which is just fine if you do. I just don't know if you want to be the most competitive you can for like a Nat season, why you wouldn't just pick up Zen because you're playing a lot of the same cards as far as your main combo lines. You just get to have them much sooner for free, it seems. So yeah, let's. I guess we'll shove him in B for now. I don't think he's C tier. I think he's better than all the C tier heroes at the moment. So I'm
Probably
gonna shove.
like bottom of the B.
I put him next to Dory, right in the middle. I have Dash IO in the first, then Katsu, then Dory. Um, KO. KO's A tier in my opinion. Um, he didn't gain anything, but he also didn't lose anything. I mean, he gained Sash, but that wasn't necessarily misfail. And he gained Run Roughshod, which is the other really good card from the Armory deck. Looking at his like matchup spread, I think he has quite a bit of game into all the S and A tier heroes. Like I think they're pretty much all 50-50, depending on who goes second or first, what kind of hands they open with. But the key is like a big thing for the Azaelia matchup is you now have 8 armor. Guess what 8 armor blocks? Blocks buff plus randomizer. And you know what? That's really good.
I
So
disagree.
I bet you disagree. But if you're the KO player, I bet you're super thrilled to just have 8 armor on the stick. And it's not even just 8. You still get like to use Sash. And you get to use 2 more armor after that. It's kind of insane. And I think the big problem with that matchup, at least for the KO Azaelia, when I was practicing it a bunch for LA, was like you really didn't want to give any armor because you can't like full block anyways, and you lose way too much value because you're not gonna give him tunic turn 0 or whatever, right? Or turn 1. Sorry, like if you go second and you do that, you can literally just give armor and do like a 5-card hand, which is kind of nuts in my opinion. So I don't think this adds that many points into Azaelia. I think it's still pretty close to 50-50, but it's also something to note. Um, Probably still not great into like aggressive dash. Like I would put KO on the lower end of A. I think your Enigma matchup is pretty close. I think it really depends on like how well you draw and if you can use Sash very effectively. You could just burst through the ward with like good Blood Rush turns. If you start like banishing your Blood Rushes, then yeah, you're on the bad end of variance, right? But and Zen also very, very close. Like if you roll well, I think it's very close to 50-50, if not 50-50 exactly. Um, I think he's much better than everyone in B, C, and D by like a country mile. Like I don't know in what world is KO not favored into any of those. Maybe Dash IO if she goes like super, super hot, but like she could also brick and have no block and KO runs at you for 20 plus.
Yeah, he's just above them.
Yeah, I think like Sash is still a crazy ass card. Like it's still super, super good. Puts him squarely in A tier. Anything to add on KO? Did I miss anything?
No, I don't think. Weakest link is good in him and against
Weakest
him.
link. Yep, I agree. I don't know how popular Weakest Link will be in the field in general. If people think it's really good into like Zen, or Enigma for that matter, I guess it might be a little bit worse for KO because he is like kind of in the line of fire. But it is also very it is a 6 power, naturally 6 power, I guess. It can't. It's a generic, which is like always a little contextual, like how many generics you really want in a KO deck. But like I can see adding some space for like 2. I think 3 might be overkill, but still very, very good in KO. I've also seen Censor running around as the 1 for 5.
Oh, I have seen that. Yeah.
Pretty good if you know what you're looking for. Like if you can name the card, pretty good. Like you can name Rend the Ledger into Azaelia, that's pretty strong, or something like that. But I think having him in A tier is good for now. I think we have Levia coming up next. I think I'm putting her right next to KO in A tier. Her expansion card slot was probably one of the most impactful cards power level wise. However, it feeds into even more variance, right? Because it's still random. You could totally whiff this card and it's hilarious. like if you start on this card and whiff, you just like it's not terrible. You just like what 2 for 7 or something like that generally. So something along those lines, or 2 for 6, 2 for 7. But you're just adding more fuel to the fire. And I think Levia's issue since she came out was always just herself. Like she just implodes. There was a game I was playing in LA where I was as KO versus Levia on end of day 1 or something along those lines, where it was not going well for me. Like that's not a great matchup for KO, pre-Sash anyways. And everything was going super well for Levia until they just like whiffed one of their hands and died to Blood Debt. And I'm just like, wow. He snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. It was just very. I just sat there and just won by doing nothing. That's the problem. Like I think I just have like a small heart attack every time I play Levia. Really not good for my health, you know. I think Chris Alley did quite well in Vegas on Battlehorn. I think he was X2, 5-2 on her. And I think I saw one of his streams. He did show the list and is very strong deck. I'm just worried about her in long events specifically. How many games is she just going to lose because of herself? You know, and I don't know if this meta is the meta where you can really handle that, but she does have pretty good matchups across the board. She uses a very, very powerful deck. I think Azaelia is the only one you'd be worried of as Levia. I think Kano is also a pretty bad matchup. But other than Azaelia and Kano, I think she can fight pretty much everybody else, just with raw numbers, essentially. Anything you want to add with Levia?
No, I think you hit basically everything. Her Zen matchup's actually like pretty good too.
It's pretty good
because
like,
she does the armor pivot thing, but better.
Yeah,
you gotta armor pivot, but you gotta take a card out of their hand rather than getting a card into your hand.
It's pretty good actually when you think about it. But her numbers were never the issue, you know.
Yeah.
She also has she still has that really bad early game. Like it's just like without the grave kind of thing, you can like brick on your early game, and if they make you go second and you just 2 for 6 them and you pass going second in Arsenal, you kind of have to bank on your luck being average at worst. You know what I mean? Because you can't really like miss another turn because then you have like 2 turns of bad value and you're not doing very well for a deck that's really good at math. So that's Levia. We got Max. What do you think about Max? Put him in B tier for now.
I think he's like not great right now. I
Oh
think
yeah,
he was
what?
really
Why is that?
benefiting from the slower meta where he could set up the mech and just kind of just like have that really big turn. Like into Guardian, it's like quite nice
Yeah, into Warrior
into the
2, I
other
guess.
heroes. Warrior was like, yeah, you had the space to be able to get in the suit, but now like while you're suiting up, you just get like ran at and like they just beat you up.
Yeah. What do you think of Supercell? That was kind of his new. It's not really his new card, but it's like the new Nitro Mechanoid card. Creating hyperdrivers and such. I think if X is 3, you get to get a Nitro Mechanoid from Banish back into deck. So I guess maybe you
Yeah.
could play slightly more aggressive. I guess not worrying about banishing your win con. I'm not really sure.
I, I, I wish the card blocked for 3.
Yeah, Bluster 2, isn't that weird? Maybe it'd be too powerful of a block for 3. I'm not really sure. But like, so what it like create like it puts X counters on hyperdriver.
And then you make
Um,
a hyperdriver with X counters,
yeah,
and
it's
if X
pretty
is 3 or
powerful.
more, I think
Let's
the
go.
card is all right.
Let's go again too, doesn't it?
No,
Oh no, okay, that would be stupid. Yeah, that's fair.
yeah, this card would be
Um,
obscene if it had go again.
if only it just tutored Nitro Mechanoid, that'd be great. Then you
Oh
could
yeah,
fight
for
Zen.
sure.
That'd be
I'd
super
probably
cool.
put him higher.
Yeah, I would too. I think B is actually pretty good space. I think I echo all the statements. I don't really know what his like winning matchups really are that are going to be well represented in the matchup, well represented in the meta for nationals. Anyways, he doesn't do aggressive as well as the other mechs, OG Dash and Dash IO specifically. He's more on the Teklo side, which is not a good thing at the moment. And I think he does have like I think Supercell is a good card. I don't think it like changes any of the speed in which he can win the game. Is
I
the
think I
issue.
might even put him in C after you described his matchup thread like that. I think he might just
I
be.
I'm just like I'm looking at the S tier and I'm just like, okay, I don't want a Z, I don't want Zen, I don't want Enigma. Well, maybe Enigma's okay. Well, but then how do you get damage through if they just set up board? I think
Yeah.
Kato's pretty bad. KO's also not great because now you have Sash. Levia, same kind of idea. Yeah, okay, maybe no. Well, I actually don't know. You could probably go both ways. I think I'd put him at bottom of B because he can still do some pretty obscene things. He can get out Mechanoid quite quickly. Like I've seen like turn 2, turn 3 Mechanoid. It's not
Yeah.
impossible, and I think because of that, you can still get some pretty good value. And if Supercell is able to bail you out even once to try to get some damage trades, like he can still use stuff like T-Bone, right? So
Mhm.
I think he still has game into some decks. I just think he's just a little bit too inconsistent in his main win con for a lot of the upper level decks because the meta is so kind of wide at S and A tier. Because there's like illusionist, there's aggro, there's glass cannon, there's wizard, there's it's just very very all over the place. Um, so that's max. We are on new. I know you played a lot of new. Why don't you tell me about new?
I think I I don't think she's figured out yet. She might be figured out for like
PT?
PT season. But I
Yep.
think like right now she's just like I think of the 3 heroes, it's not apparent as to what her build should look like. I know some have been doing well,
Mm-hmm.
but just in general, I think like she's not as fine tuned as the other two. Like I feel like Zen is very streamlined now. Most of Enigma is like it always has that illusionist thing where it's like there's 2 schools of thought and you'll probably have that forever.
Mm-hmm.
But new is just like still being figured out and still being worked on. I think she's like good, but this also might not be the meta for her because she like really feasts on like stuff like Guardian and like
Yeah. Where the
that
blues
that
are
kind
just
of
super,
thing.
yeah, where her hero power is just very impactful. Um, I tend to agree. She's got like a very good kind of mid-rangey value orient style. Now, you could probably play her a little bit more, as with every assassin, play her a little bit more on the red line builds, like Azuri, where like Azuri has like a more contracty build, a more mid-rangey build, and a more like a redliney build. Um, wouldn't be surprised to see those, but like a lot of her like powerful cards are either blues or like blue attacks and like reacts that only hit blue attacks, like just a Nick, right? So it doesn't necessarily promote a super heavy redline build when you have like prognosis for 1, surgical for 4. It's just like a very heavy disruption build where you can like disrupt them, play a longer game, use your mask, make them like discard cards, and then get value with their own blues and with your above rate attack reacts like just a nick, right? Um, I don't know who you're like. I'm looking at S and A tier. I don't really know who you're super excited to see in S or A tier, like Zen, Azaelia, Enigma Dash, Kano, Kayo, and Levia. Are any of those matchups that you would want to see playing new?
The Zen Azaelia matchups are, they feel very like very weird because it's just like it's determined by how impactful your disruption is and how much disruption you have. Because if you're just disrupting them constantly, or you have like really good disruption on some turns, you just blow them out and they can't really do the thing that they're supposed to do to you.
Mm-hmm.
So those matchups aren't too bad.
Sure, that makes
Enigma
sense.
is a pretty bad matchup.
Enigma sounds absolute like just like Assassin into Enigma in general, or just like low output decks that aren't able to overwhelm her ward, or at least have a way to break the ward, seem not doomed, but like very close to doomed. Um,
Yeah.
I can see her Levia matchup being quite good because Levia really does need sculpted hands, otherwise she kills herself.
The
You know
the
what I mean?
matchup's actually really interesting because Levia can't block the like can't fill her graveyard in
Yeah.
front of the stealth cards.
It's just banished. Yeah, that's true. That's actually
The
quite
the matchup's
poor.
really interesting actually.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard from players on both sides, they enjoy playing it, and it's like really close, interesting.
Yeah. That makes sense. I can see that being probably not very straightforward for Levia to pilot, but leaves a little bit easier for new to just have agency to actually win.
Yep.
Whereas something like a KO, not so much. I think KO just runs at you, and like you strip a card or two for KO, and they still run at you, and it's just very awkward in general. Or like there were turns where like I played like a couple of games where it's like, oh, they stripped two cards from my hands. Like they like stripped a card and masked, and then my hand was pitch a blue, blood rush, discard beast with him. And so it's just like, yeah, pop sash, still do like 3 card, like 20 or something like that. And it's like, and they have to like take damage to keep that kind of combo, right? Because you need a lot of resources to pull off your disruption. Because you need to not only hit, but you also need like a chi for your mask or something like that, right? So it's not as straightforward. Um, Olympia, uh, D, like
I
I
think
don't.
I think Betsy and Iraq need a friend.
I mean, his expansion card slot is funny. Like you get to like have a sideboard that's just like all equipment, which is entertaining. Um,
Your deck's only $2,000
I
now.
don't know how you win the game. Like his issue was like having a gold payoff. I don't know if this is it. Like I don't know if this is the gold payoff he was looking for when he entered the arena, but it's definitely not what he's leaving with in the arena. Um, it's like I looked at it like kind of closely. I spent a solid 15 minutes just like looking at the card and being like, is this how viable is this in like this particular meta? It's just like, okay, well, will I even get a chance to like get gold in a lot of these matchups? I don't even think that's true because you're gonna have to be taking a lot of damage to get this. And it's just like, oh yeah, there's like different builds. You could go like Great Axe, which is kind of what I was looking at. Then two-handed, like two one-handers, that kind of stuff. But I think you're just like, if Warrior is not already in the meta, then I don't know if Olympia really breaks the mold here by having a equipment replacement card. Um, because it's just like a long-term value game. So maybe what was that like super fatigued US player? What's his name? The guy who won USNS last year, Charles Dunn. There you go. Maybe
Charles
he
Dunn,
comes with
yeah.
like the mother of all Olympia fatigue decks, and he wins because nobody expects it, right? I don't know. Maybe someone else has put a lot of time into it, but I have not. So he's gonna stay in D tier, and we're gonna move on to Prism. Oh, Prism. I never know what to do with Prism. Prism's just like all over the place all the time. Um, I want to put her in A, but like our A is getting kind of full up in here. But
I uh
she's powerful.
I
I mean, we have some other heroes to go through, but like she's pretty powerful. I don't know. What do you think about Prism?
I I think she has a good spot right now. I'd put her towards the top of A personally. She's just like I think she's like quite good right now. She has a
True.
lot of tools to do a lot of really stupid stuff as most illusionists do. Arc-Light
Hmm.
Sentinel makes me upset.
Makes you upset. That's
Um,
true. This is
as
accurate.
someone who likes to present Azaelia,
Hmm.
uh, I think she's just like quite good. Obviously, she's held back by the 32 life, thank God.
Yep.
But her having two builds because of the new Luminaris just like
Sure.
really helps her out, and like even in this past meta, like uh, Oliver showed that like she can still hang.
Yeah. That's accurate. I'm gonna put her in A, but I'm gonna put her next to New near the bottom because I don't think she likes Levia. I don't think she likes KO. She's good into Kano. I don't really think she likes Enigma or Dash for that matter. Good into Azaelia. Sure, you are I definitely agree with you there. Um, Zen's kind of like because you're a 32 for Zen. I don't know. I think you're probably good into Zen, but the 32 is like quite scary, right? Because you don't have armor. So I imagine maybe you just try to go first and get like angels out and try to get some ward early or something along those lines. But
Harold's hurt.
heralds do hurt. Heralds do be hurting. But I don't really like the Enigma matchup personally. So I don't know there's actually that many matchups I like above me other than Kano and Azaelia. And possibly Zen. I think the other matchups are actually favored for the other side. So I'm gonna put her at the bottom of A, but I still think she's like better than the heroes below her. So we'll leave her there for now. Reinar. Oh man, is he C or D? I don't even know.
I think he's better than what's going on in D.
Oh, let's shove him in bottom of C. I think he is like anti-control guardian, and there's no control or guardian other than maybe Victor. But like Victor's like they're not playing that kind of style where Reinar is really like that powerful. And I think with Kayo and Levia where they are, like does Reinar even use Sash? I don't know if he uses Sash to be honest with you. Probably like
I-
maybe, but Tunic just seems much better for him.
he can't even use Sash efficiently, like as
Yeah,
efficiently as the other hero.
yeah, because he just
It's
doesn't
like
have as much go again. In general, like he doesn't really play like wild rides or pulpings like KO. He doesn't really. He can run windups and stuff, but he doesn't really have natural go again cards like Levia does.
yeah.
Um, like with Screamer and stuff like that, and now with the new Blasphemous Fed card. So I think I show him at C. I don't think he's able to pivot into builds that would be very good in this particular meta. Whereas I think he can do okay into like the Warrior Guardian matchups. I don't think those are going to be the highest represented matchups. And the best two decks we have in S are hyper aggro decks, which Reinar does not do well into historically or currently. So I'm fine with C. Let's move on to Riptide. Lurker of the Deep, I think is the title. Don't know why I know that. I'm gonna show him in B. And you know why? No, I'm gonna show him in B? Because Murky Waters is a stupid card. I
That's
don't know if you
true.
played it in Riptide, but I was screwing around with Riptide because I said I would in chat. I play some games. It's a fun hero. You play like New Horizons Riptide, and you just like hit with Murky Waters on like aggro deck. It doesn't want to block, and you get like Collapsing Trap back face down. It's just like, oh, sick. This is a really good card. Um, and I think he's got like one of the best expansion card slots in the set. Um, just like pure power level with like Levia and Vincent probably, right? And I think he's got like a pretty good. He's got some pretty good builds available to him. He can run more aggro, or he can run more of like a mid-rangey control style. Um, and that's gonna screw with people's sideboarding because you have to sideboard quite differently depending on how many traps you think they're running and what their game plan is. If they're running Dreadbore or if they're running like Death Dealer or whatever they're running, right? And I think you've got enough toolboxy stuff going on, and you can run New Horizons that he's got like enough oomph factor with the new arrow and his regular kit that people won't be expecting that kind of power level. And I think his spread is actually not that bad if you take away Guardians, right? Like obviously Guardians he struggled into, but and Enigma is obviously not going to be fun. You get like Murkmire, but you don't generally run a ton of buffs in Riptide. I guess you could start doing it, but at that point you might as well just be Azaelia.
Let's
What
get
do you think about
thrashed by
Riptide?
Kano.
Yeah, Kano's not fun either.
I can't imagine News a fun matchup to pilot on the Riptide side. Like it might end up being like okay for Riptide, but doesn't sound fun to navigate.
I feel like you've got like a fair amount of good value cards and on hits, and you've got a lot of traps. Like I think Nu's not going to do well into heavy D react decks, as with Assassin in general is not usually fun with I guess decks with a lot of D reacts like Guardian, like historically speaking.
The problem
But
is your
even
D reacts are like 3.
but you have such good D reacts. Like your legendary traps are so good, and Murky. This card just lets you like get them back.
That's true.
Like it's not for sure. It's 3, right? Like you could pick. It's a random card out of it, but it's still such good value that you're approaching the point where like your offense and defense, especially if you get a deck that does really well with like New Horizon, you can still run Codex and stuff like that. Um, Overall, like if you were playing this deck for fun, even I think this is actually a pretty reasonable deck to break the Nats. Just because his power level is probably on par. I'd probably put him on the higher end of B, funnily enough. I'd rather play him than like Katsu Dory or Max. Maybe not Dory. Well, no, yeah, I'd rather play him than Dory. Maybe not Dash IO, because Dash IO just does like bursty, disgusting things. But you know what? I'm putting him top of B. I've convinced myself. He's now
I
at top
told
of B.
Zane I don't respect him, so I gotta hold straw.
All right. We'll keep him in B. We'll keep him in B. Got a couple more here. Teklovossen.
He's gone.
Uh,
He died.
C D. Like I
I'd
don't
put him
know,
in
man.
D, to be honest. In the slow format, there was a reason to play him. Like getting in the suit at the end of the game, you just like
Yep.
your end game is insane.
Yep.
Getting there was pretty easy.
Yep.
But now you die.
All
I
things
don't
I
think
agree
you
with.
beat Enigma. I think you probably beat Azaelia. Like you can just keep armoring up, and it's probably like not too bad. Zen,
Yeah.
you probably get ran over by.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
think
think you can ever beat New.
I think this is all correct. Um I think you're just like way too slow and you don't really have on hits until later in the game. And I don't think you make it that late in the game against a lot of this deck. So this you got Arcane Barrier Evo pieces. So like maybe your Kano mashup isn't as like dog as it used to be. Maybe. I don't even know if that's
It's
true.
still pretty bad.
Yeah, so like that was his expansion slot. He got 4 of them, and they didn't really do them. I think the Evo legs are actually pretty good because his target attack gains go again, which is an interesting thing to note. It's not just like mech attack or something. Um, but does it make me want to play Teklavos in this meta? Zuri. This is an interesting hero because new came out. What do you think about Zuri? I know you played a shit ton of Zuri before.
I love this hero. She's really efficient. She does like really good things. Her disruption's pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she plays the numbers games well. Her goal is to play the numbers game, but stop you from playing the numbers game better than her.
Sure,
Her issue is I don't think she can do that with the heroes that are good right now.
that's fair. Her Enigma
Um,
matchup seems kind of bad.
as per usual, the
Yep,
assassins.
nothing's changed there.
Kano is like okay. You're probably fine into like Dash, Levia, Kayo, but I think you lose to everyone else in A, in S.
Yeah, I think your illusions matchups are still pretty bad. Your Victor matchup is still bad. We haven't gone through him yet. He's the next hero, but I think if that matchup hasn't changed, and he got a good expansion card slot too, so he's actually more
Oh yeah.
powerful. So I think there's too many heroes in AS that are just kind of have your number. So I put her at the top of B. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I think she does a lot of better things than like a lot of these heroes in B, but she's just
Dash,
not quite
Riptide,
there.
Katsu. Yeah. She doesn't do in this particular meta. I don't think she counters or like targets enough.
Yep.
Essentially, Victor. I think he's an A tier hero, but our A tier is getting kind of thick, so we might have to move some stuff around. I think Victor is. I don't know. I don't think people have like written off Guardian at all, and I don't know why. Because this hero got cast homes, right? We got not cast bones. We got cast homes, and card is good. I don't know if you read it, but it's 3 block, 1 cost, go again. And if you have 3 gold, so it creates a gold, and you already start with a gold if you run the shield, right? And if you got 3 or more, you get that many mites. And guess what? The goals don't go away. So you get to keep the goals, and you just get. And one of the big deals that Victor had was either closing out games, making his big attacks even bigger, but extracting value off his goals that weren't just like redoing clashes. You know what I mean? So he had a very similar issue as Olympia. It's like really just he had Golden Sun, right, which was a lot better than what Olympia had. Um, but you only have so many Golden Suns. So I think being able to leverage this until you actually are able to either second cycle a Golden Sun if that's what you want, or actually get it and play it down, depending on where you are in the game. Very, very good. Because this might. So you know what might impacts? I can now CNC you for 9. Like there's some really, really good. I mean, it's not cast bones, but like you also get to keep going. It has go again. Isn't that crazy? You could run this off Tunic.
And you get a draw card.
And you like it seems really really good as part of like the Victor game plan, and I think he still has some like good. I think you're just really you don't want to see Enigma, right? You don't want to see Prism. I don't think your Prism match. Well, I think your Prism matchup is better than your Enigma matchup, but that's not really saying much. Um, what else? I think the only real issue he's gonna have is like I don't think he's good into brutes. Like I think he wasn't good before Sash, and I sure as shit don't think he's good after Sash. Um, I don't think Cast Holmes is as good as Cast Bones in that matchup, which is a bit of a problem because Brute just got a hell of a lot better value cards where he was already winning the value game. So that's not great, but like very good into the Assassins, very good into Azaelia. I can see him being very good into Zen. Like he could probably tank Zen as well as probably the best any other hero in A or S tier. And if he's able to grind out Zen's big turn, because he's got like a big fridge, you know what I mean? And Civic Steps doesn't mean anything. You Civic Steps the first thing, and Zen can't really use the quicken. Like he's gonna have go again anyway. So he's got like very little downside to full blocking out. He's got pretty much all 3 blocks. He's got a bunch of 4 blocks with Clash. He'll generally win Clash in that matchup and get another gold. He'll draw a card. He'll have another blocking card. He can run Crown of Balance of Justice, draw another card. So honestly, like pretty good match for Zen, even in that respect. So also probably not very good into Kano, but overall, I think he has enough matchups that he's solid into in the top line, and he's also an overall powerful deck with good numbers, even more so with Cast Homes. I know it's not the name of the card. I'm just gonna keep calling it Cast Homes.
Going home is pretty good.
Yeah, this is the Gold Main Estate. This is the Gold Main Estate. It's the actual name of the card. But I think he's more deserving of A than like new, in my opinion. I think he's more proven. I think his build is already fleshed out. It's very powerful, and it just got better. And I think the meta is actually pretty decent for him. So I would put him in A tier. I don't know what you think about Victor.
I think he deserves A tier 100%. I will say about the assassin matchups though, I think he might be good. Might be bad into new.
Yeah, if he does banish, dude. But the thing is, like, if he has like cast homes and stuff like that, and he's able to like get around it with that. He has to dilute a little bit. It's true, but it is definitely a little bit worrisome to have your blues just sent back at you. But that's probably gonna be like a pretty long matchup.
Yeah, that matchup's probably gonna go long. But I think he's very good right now.
Yeah, other than maybe new, I think his overall board against everyone below him in like B and C is very good. He's very good into Warriors, good into Ninja, good into Riptide, good into Azuri. You know what I mean? Like I think if you see any of these below A decks, you're you're quite favored 55 plus, and that's a very powerful deck to go in for Nats, right? Because there's not that many CC rounds. There's like 8 CC rounds before for the US one before, and only 6 for the other ones before top 8, right? So for that few games, you can get very rewarded by picking Victor. Viserai. Viserai is a C2 hero. Because of that reason. I don't know. Like this hero just like I have really nothing to say about this hero. Like Warmongers destroys you. Your aggressive deck that's not even close to being the output of the actual aggressive decks. You don't have disruption. You're just playing like OTK Runechant. That doesn't seem like the winning strategy at the moment. I don't think you get there in this meta.
Nope.
And Enigma just has a shit ton of wards, so you can't even use that against her. There's probably some kind of wacky build out there that I'm not thinking about. But for now, we will move on to the last hero, Vincent. It's like the Bolton problem. I feel like she always needs one more card. Even though like Eloquent Eulogy is a very, very, very good card. Probably on a power level basis, the most powerful expansion slot card, just on a pure power level basis. Room Gate 1 is pretty dumb. There's a reason why this is the first Room Gate 1 card. It can enable some really disgusting turns, some very, very good value. Like you can literally give it go again with like puppetry or whatever. Eulogy, create the eloquence token, read the runes, have like another 3 rune gate in your banish, and then you're just like nining them. So you're like coming into them with like pretty easy, like 16 plus disruption turns. Pretty solid considering your fridge is also very large.
Yep.
Because you can run balance, you can run 3 armor on your chest, 3 armor on your gloves, and like creepers, which is 1 armor plus like a lot of utility. Still one of the best boots out there. It's just as far as like the actual ability. I just don't know where to put her, honestly. She's not C tier. I think she's B
I think she's a top of B tier, or like somewhere around there, like middle to top of B tier. I think she's like.
I'll put her in between Azuri and
pretty
Riptide.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Zen and Azaelia in S tier. Do we want to move anyone up to S tier? Enigma, Dash, Kano, Kayo, Levia, Prism, New Invictor. I feel like, I don't know, man. I feel like Enigma might warrant the S tier.
I think looking at where we've put everything, I think she can move up to S tier.
Because she has so many like free matchups. You know what I mean? Like just like the level of free matchups you get should definitely impact if you're in A and S. Whereas like people in A have good matchup spreads, but they don't have that many free matchups other than maybe Kano. But I think putting Kano S tier is too much because he is very, very, very hard to play. He could brick like anybody else, and his strategies don't always work. So the consistency is not necessarily there. You can get lucky and sack. You can sack with anybody. Okay, so I'm good with that. A tier, we have Dash, Kano, KO, Levia, Prism, Nude, Victor.
I think I might move Dash and New to the top of B tier.
Dash and New to the top of B tier. Probably Dash first, then New is my guess.
Yeah, because don't get me wrong, I think they're like quite good. But I think they're just like slightly below these other heroes we've put in A tier. And like what they're doing and what they can present.
Yeah. I think the only thing is I might want to put Dash in A tier just because like the aggressive Dash build can be like he's got a good spread against everybody other than like Azaelia. Really. Like when you look at it, like if you build Dash properly and you get these matchups, you're doing pretty well. Maybe not Levia necessarily, but like you can do quite well aggressively into these decks or like a hybrid build into these decks. But I think we'll keep her at B, even though like I could be convinced for her being an A. I think the rest of this is fine. I think all the B heroes deserve to be there. C heroes, D heroes. And that's not to say these heroes are awful and you can't play them. That's just in this particular meta is maybe not their meta. That's what we're trying to say here. Any final closing thoughts?
You guys shouldn't play Prism, and I would appreciate that.
Yeah, well, you could play Enigma instead. I hear Enigma is better. We're putting Enigma in S tier. Surely that means you should all play Enigma for no particular reason at all.
I would agree. Yeah, please present Enigma.
Well, on that note, I think we're good here. I know that I like that on my recording. I have like all the D heroes at like half mast here, so you can only half see the D heroes. I'll scroll down just to remind everyone what's down there. But from that, I appreciate everyone for watching. If you like this kind of content, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate Nghia for coming on to be the Rob placement for today's video. And for everyone playing in your upcoming Nats or just, armories, battle hards, and such, good luck with the season. And from wherever you're watching in the world, have a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Bye for now.